What's up, Digidestins? This is Kyle D, better known as RideMyAvatar, and today we have Japanese Tuesday. We're going to do a full meta breakdown of EX-06 and just talk about all the goodies in the decks that you're going to be expecting. So without further ado, let's dive in the video and talk about it. So your top three, your big three you're going to be looking at is 7th grade Demon Lords, Blue Armor Rush, and then Yellow Vaccine, which is kind of interesting. Yellow Vaccine actually has two lists going for it. I could have probably subdivided it even further, but just two vaccines. We'll go over all the lists and stuff like that, followed by 4th place getting Diaboromon up there, then followed by Numemon, Dog Bunny, Mirage, Shine Greymon, Levia, Red Black Greymon, Shaka, the Mastimon deck, Leomon, Blue Green Imperial, Insects, Ragna, Luga, Balfa, Royal Knights. A lot of this starts going down to 2s and 1s after this point, but out of that you get 187 decks this format. It was a very shorter one for events wise. That is because of the holidays happening around the corner here, plus also Worlds happen, and right now they also have the EX set events going on, which are there only can be one Highlander style format. The data wasn't as high as it normally should, and once the EX stuff goes away, data should return to normal. We should see about 200 close to 250 normally where we get our data from, but just something to think about here. And there was a lot of interesting decks that got into the format. You have like Grand Drac and stuff like that. But the thing and Yellow Armor Rush, which is quite interesting. We will talk about that later. But the thing is that midway through the format, LM3 got dropped, and it was a way of introducing the cards Shuffle. And I think that's what I'm supposed to say, the Shuffles or something like that. Yeah. Those cards really introduced something very interesting into the format. Introduced a way of playing the game a different way. Now you had a comeback where your rookie could come back, which could be a rookie with an on play or anything like that. If your opponent had a Digimon and your board was cleared, it could let you climb up from rookie to champion to ultimate, maybe to mega if everything moved swimmingly. So stuff like that is very important to take into account. And then we got a few aces as well from LM3 that kind of sped up some decks as well. Taking a look at it though, the 7th grade Demon Lords kind of looked like this most of the format. It was either between Sistermon Blanc, a cheap version of Raremon, or people would play a full play set of Raremon. The fact that there was only one viable target to kind of digivolve on top of your Raremon, and that was Lucimon, not a very big incentive for players to kind of just go out and get Raremon. I mean, we know that Poor Cupmon was kind of needed for this because if people were playing Psychmon to counteract this deck, because this deck held a strong footing in the door, they really needed to use Psychmon to slow it down, which is not a bad thing. They had also access to Biting Crush, Rivals Barrage, and 7 Lightning as their kind of go-to options to use Leviamon as another alternative pressure point. And it was really interesting to see how this deck evolved from the starting phases to now this more consistency, where it used a higher option pool that could just deal with creating threat options. Because if you remove their threat, what else are you going to do? You had very much a good value here just to pop off. Stuff like that is really interesting to take a look at. Then Yellow Armors. This was a more recent one. This is more of a budget-friendly option using the Shuffle or Scrambles. Yeah, Scramble. Shuffle. Scramble. Using Blue Scramble to get your VMons back onto the board is really solid because your armors really take advantage of that. But all in all, though, it's kind of basically the low end. This would be like your budget-friendly version. I'm going to be straight up honest with you. And it's probably really strong and goes pretty broom, broom, broom. Stuff like that is really interesting to take a look at. Then this is kind of the more lists you'll actually see using like Death X, Omnimon, Merciful Mode, the big boy himself, the secret version of Magna X Antibody. This card is just nutty strong. And again, a splash of 2 scrambles plus the trainings really does help out keep the tempo of the deck. I like the Crimson Blaze Splash, but I'm trying to figure out, how do you naturally use this card? You really don't in this list, do you? They're really hoping that this gets it hidden security and never play it? Okay, but an interesting tech was Shu as well, that everyone started teching a one of in. She's a good memory setter, and she goes on her X antibodies and gives a really solid inheritable lineup. Yeah, this was really a splashable tech here. Then you have like Davis's and TK's, and yeah, don't understand the Crimson Blaze, but yeah, there's, oh, because the Vmon's blue-red. Got it. I forgot that Vmon's blue-red. So you could tech that in. But majorly, once people started teching in with the Magnemon X antibody was Blinding Ray, because this would help pop you off a little bit sooner. And, you know, with it, you had the ability of answering threats and becoming very beefy and more of a threat to deal with. Then you do have the fact of the other kind of yellow vaccine deck. This was very more commonplace a little bit. The Patamon with the Rapids kind of just going off from there and using scrambles to get your Patas back. Especially this scramble plus this Pata was actually quite more nutty and functional, because now you could have, because the problem became with this Pata wasn't as consistent, but with scrambles, this Pata became more consistent because now you can pick out the 2-color, you know, Rapids and go off from there. With the delay effect of scramble after they've answered your board, the Patamon could at least get the Rapid to at least be able to Digivolve you at a reduced cost, which is really solid and what you really wanted to do anyway. Yeah, this now became, you had to worry about this Pata and raising that could just do it for free, or you had this Pata coming out with the scrambles and you were pulling out one of the Rapids to do it anyway. There was 2 kind of lines here. Now, this is where I expect Pata to evolve and be stronger once we have scramble. In the current format, I don't see this Pata actually being that powerful, but I like that where they're going with it. A lot of decent jogressing and some great value going forwards. Then here's the normal kind of yellow vaccine you kind of saw more consistently through the tournaments. You know, you had the Pata, you had the Luxmon, you know, Angemon plus Gatos, you know, Angelwolmon or Magna Angemon kind of just filled in the slots here. But with Dominionmon being such a very powerful powerhouse in itself, giving your Digimon another wave of protection and making your opponent have to deal with it is very important. But taking a look at it now, though, you know, Cherubimon Ace, really powerful card just because of the way it combos off. And I'm excited to see where it goes from there. But there's a lot of potential. We'll see what happens when we get this stuff. Then we had Diaboromon leading up the rear as well. Diaboromon definitely took some evolution with the Cyclone. This card here really cemented Diaboromon to be able to be really aggressive going on all turns. Being able to have your rush tokens if you were able to get your turn back by, let's just say, having enough Aradas, and you had the Kurasurimon in there that gains you for every Diaboromon played, you could get the 3 memory back and set yourself up to use Cyclone to make these tokens now be able to swing in with, you know, 2 security checks with jamming, and then your opponent's just really having a bad time because these things are clearing out security, and then you could lead to lethal in game. Stuff like that is very important to take a look at when it comes down to designs and stuff like that. But EX-06, this card coming out of the back burner is really cool. Then you had Numemon doing Numemon shenanigans. Chimeramon, I see that Chimeramon is starting to be thought about, and I really like the idea of Chimeramon as well, personally, because being able to jogress with your pieces really does help out in the end game. I'm really excited to see how this goes forwards and how it evolves, but I like the X antibody splits. Everything really seems like a solid deck in its own right. But all in all, though, Chimera being a tech into the Numemon engine, because you could get 2 Numemon X's underneath by just jogressing the 2 Numemon X's you have, and you could get a 3rd one. That Chimeramon goes pops, you're playing 3 Numemon out for no reason other than making your opponent have a bad time. Stuff like that is very important to take a look at. And you know what? Numemon X antibody gets ridiculous with Chimera, I think. Yeah. Then the Shukomon deck. This card definitely took advantage of adding in the good friend here of Sukuyamon Maid Mode Ace. This card here, you know, you were playing Valkyriemon just to go off on these guys, but the fact that you can put the Kentoris option on top is really nasty, because then you can combo it if they don't swing into it, into the Blinding Ray and stuff like that. It's just really nutty here, and I like where they went with it. I do think just these two comboed off really nicely because you get to trash your level 5 and draw 2. And then you did have this one for just on deletion draw a card. Yeah, you got a +3 and got to go off. I like the jamming plugin. That's really useful, but taking a look at it, all this is good stuff. I mean, the deck centralized around just jogger, Digi-crossing into your big boss Digimon and going from there. It's a very unique style of play. The Ukamon, of course, had to be played in here because you need ways of searching your pieces out, and that's just one way. But then we also had the Golden Bunny Boy himself. You know that these secrets are going to be a pain in the rear because each one is going to be a full playset, and they're valued very covetedly. But all in all, you have the Terriermon going for itself, and just keep this in mind. Then we have Mastemon doing some Mastemon shenanigans. There was 2 ways of playing Mastemon. Either you went with the Sala routes to do your normal shenanigans and do what you need to do, and that's fine and dandy for some players. Others went for the Uka route, which I understand. Ukamon is a very powerful card. It helps you search your key pieces out and gets you going. Being able to Jogress with your Digimon is huge, and Mastemon needs to have all its pieces to kind of keep going and staying in the game, and the Ukamon did allow that. But you also had the Salamon deck if you wanted to just a more of a stacky version of the deck, and it's all valid. You have 2 ways of playing it, and with the Mirai being able to gain you some decent value by memory, extending your plays, and doing a end of turn Jogress, you didn't have to rely on this Gato as much to get to your Jogress shenanigans. Stuff like that really does help. And with Mastemon Ace being able to reduce your opponent's security stack, being able to get a threat into their security stack off their board, does add up, and especially gets you another body set up to go into another Mastemon. It really does help out. Then you had Ragna himself. Didn't do as hot, got only 4 tops, but I like the spice at the Jedi and then the big Mega Digimon Fusion new card option. Just being able to Jogress from your hand really did help out, especially because all you needed was 1 piece on the board and you could do it on your main turn for 4, which again, Ragna didn't care because Ragna has the Blitz ability and then wants to trash once you did it. Yeah, having that a functionality is really good. And I love the place. This would force your opponent to swing in, and then you could use Ragna Ace to just go off from there. Yeah, I mean, there was so much potential, especially with the tie to draw cards, get you pieces. I think this is a pretty solid list to go for, but yeah, if you don't know how Ragna plays, I really highly recommend watching Ben. He's very knowledgeable on his Ragna decks. Then we did get Yellow Armor Rush. This is a more finished, polished version. They had the Salas plus Nefertimon. Nefertimon is one of the bigger pieces here because you want to get on Gato just to have the armor to swing, but it also had its evolved form that gains extra DP and then security attack to go in. You had Sylphimon, which if you could get both armors out, you could Jogress that way and just make your opponent have a bad time. But all in all, they used the top end of Magna X Antibody, Magnamon X Antibody, as always. Then we did have Grand Drachmon do something. It definitely shows that the shuffles were a little bit more required for this, especially because you can combo it with this promo here, which the promo would lead you into getting into Grand Drachmon for nothing, for something. But it's really interesting to see how this kind of goes. And I like how Shuffle really does help out with that. It introduced a very interesting playstyle, and I'm really excited to see where they go with it from here. But all in all, Grand Drachmon doing something. It only topped once, but it's spicy enough. It does what it wants to do, and that is use its cards for play. And this is Cerberusmon and Dobermon X Antibody here, if anybody needed to know what cards these were. And yeah, I think all in all, though, really excited to see. I'm glad that we're getting this card. If we get Scrambles on time, it'll definitely help out. But all in all, for 187 decks, it's good to see where the top was, and that was 7th Grade Demon Lord, followed Blue Armor and Yellow Vaccine. Kind of very interesting to see all these lists. What do you guys think? Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you next one.